Who would not like to have a perfect brain, working flawlessly, efficiently and precisely, even if the stakes are high and pressure is tremendous, like an accurate supercomputer? Unfortunately, our brain is extremely bad at working perfectly. Making mistakes is a basic operating principle of our mind. One guy who really knows this is the Amazon employee who tried to activate the service mode for Amazon servers 2 years ago. He submitted the command line to activate the maintenance protocol, but he made a typo. Step by step, large parts of the Amazon servers went down and losses went up into hundreds of millions of dollars because of a typo. And as much as we try, such careless mistakes will eventually happen again. Because a brain cannot afford to get rid of them, mistakes make us human, and creative. Source 99 Art, Shutterstock. Many people think that a brain works logically in a structured way. From a follows be thus: if there is a blunder at the end, you just have to analyze what went wrong before. After all, everything happens for a reason. But this is not the case in the brain, at least not at first sight. Instead, the regions in our brain controlling our actions and giving rise to new thoughts work in a chaotic way. Like on a farmer's market, there is a lot of competition between different options, which are action patterns in the brain. Some are useful and correct, others are totally unnecessary or wrong. If you've been to a farmer's market, you will have noticed that sometimes a pitchman's advertising is more important than the quality of the product. Thus, sometimes the loudest products will succeed instead of the best ones. Similar things can happen in the brain. An action pattern, for whatever reason, becomes so dominant that it suppresses all the other options. The farmer's market region in our brain where all the options are compared is the basal ganglia. Sometimes an action pattern becomes so strong that it shuts the others down. The winner takes it all. A loud but wrong pattern dominates, passes a filter mechanism, located in the anterior cingulate cortex, and leads to a careless mistake. There can be many reasons why this happens, and sometimes it's pure statistics that result in a wrong but obvious pattern to dominate. You have experienced this yourself, for sure. If you've ever tried a tongue twister, it's quite easy to say poured or pulled or cod. But try to say pad kid poured curd pulled cod and you will feel the incorrect speaking patterns dominating the correct ones in your basal ganglia. This is how tongue twisters work and how our thinking style is principally set up. Instead of planning everything perfectly, the brain rather determines a rough goal, develops a lot of different options to act and tries to filter out the best one. Sometimes it's working, sometimes a mistake slips through, but in any case, the brain leaves the door open to adaptive and creative outcomes. If you analyze what is happening in the brain when we make a mistake, you will realize that a lot of brain regions are involved: basal ganglia, frontal cortex, motor cortex and so on. But one region is missing, the region that is controlling fear. Because we have no inherited fear of making a mistake, no child is afraid of starting to speak because it could get muddled. We are trained that mistakes are bad, and in many cases, this is a good thing. But if you always try to avoid a blunder and playing it safe, you will miss the chance to act courageously. The brain will always create even the most absurd thoughts and action patterns, and thereby it will risk that we fail and do something wrong. Of course, not all mistakes are good. If you are driving a car, you should follow the traffic rules. But if you want to invent a new car, you should dare to think like nobody has done before, without knowing if you succeed or not. But this is not going to happen if you nip mistakes in the bud. Everyone who is longing for a perfect brain should also consider what this also means. It would be replaceable by machines, anti-progressive and not able to adjust. Just like a monocultivated crop field, super efficient if everything stays the same, but destroyed if there is a little change. Instead of fighting for perfectionism, we should cherish our ability to blunder. After all, a perfect world is the end of progress. Because if everything is perfect, where should you proceed to? Maybe this is the core idea of what Konrad Zuse, the German inventor of the first programmable computer, meant when he said a couple of decades ago, "The danger that computers will become like humans is not as great as the danger that humans will become like computers."